All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Omar Pinto Coaching Podcast. And today we've got Brooks Meadows joining us. And Brooks, I met through one of my dearest friends, brothers, clients. He's a bunch of things. Austin Linney. He's a beautiful human being. I've been on his podcast. He's been on mine. And I recently had an opportunity to guest speak on his mastermind community. I met some amazing men, all lions, many of them coaches or in the coaching space. And listening to Brooks, I thought, man, it'd be great to get Brooks on the show, and here he is. So welcome, Brooks.
Thank you so much. Shout out Austin Linney. Austin Linney, he exemplifies the Jordan Peterson phrase, you got to learn to be a monster. That dude is a monster. He knows how to get out and get what he wants. And he has ascended to where he can be kind and compassionate along the way, which is a very rare gem to find, someone who's that hungry and that kind at the same time. So shout out Austin Linney. Best mastermind ever.
Yes, no, it is. I had such a good time on that mastermind call. As a matter of fact, I recently launched that one as a podcast episode.
Yes. Okay. It needed to be seen. This needs to be seen.
Well, it's not seen because it's not on YouTube. I put it on the podcast. It's heard, right? There's a lot of faces on there. I didn't want to ask everybody if it was okay for me to launch a YouTube, but the point is that the episode itself, I felt was important to share. So I think that one went out this week. And this one will go out in the next month or so. So anyway, so Brooks, before we dive into, 2022, because I know you had some ideas, and that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur, that you have to get used to pivoting. You have to be ready for anything. Because in any given moment, whatever we see or whatever vision or whatever goals we have earmarked or set for the year or for the quarter can shift in an instant. So before we dive into 2022, I'm curious about how you started your own entrepreneurial venture, or have you always been an entrepreneur?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, my academic background, I went to Standard University. I studied economics. I met a very amazing human being tucked away into the far corners of this small university in my hometown where I'm from, Memphis, Tennessee. I met a guy named Sam, and Sam is ethnically Korean, but he was born and raised in Quito, Ecuador, grew up in Mexico City, lived in Brazil. The guy he thought to himself in multiple languages, depending on where he was. And he gave me this idea after I graduated from college. I graduated in the fall, for context, in the fall of 2008. If you were following finances in the fall of 2008, that's when everything started falling apart. There was a housing crisis. There was a economic slowdown, and people like me, fresh new graduates with no experience, were a dime a dozen, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity for us. So first of all, it would be pertinent to mention the spell that a lot of my generation and beyond and above grew up with, which was you follow the steps and everything works out. You do what you're told and you get what you need. Yeah, you go to high school, and if you want to get into the corporate world, which is what you should do because that's what you need, because you want to get the security, you got to go through these steps. And that story was just shattered in an instant for me. Okay. And everybody behind me got to see this witnessed in real life. And they're like, oh, wow, maybe all that stuff that we learned and were told isn't actually true. But Sam recommended that I move to another country. He recommended that I move to South Korea. This was and I was like, well, why should I do that? He said, dude, you can teach English, you can make some money, you can travel. And what else are you going to do? I said, that's a great point, man. It's a great point. So this was like my first big risk, to say, moving to the other side of the world where I don't speak the language, don't know the culture, and don't know anybody. And I'm going to go teach English to little kids. Plus, at least in 2009, when I moved there, most of the people from my hometown couldn't even have found Korea on a map. They could only associate with Japan or China. Those are the only two countries in Eastern Asia that existed. So now there's bibimbap everything. You got K-pop on everywhere. So I tell my timeline because this is a very important moment in my life because it opens my idea of what's possible for me. Getting into a very rich international community that I found in Seoul, South Korea, the capital, 25 million metropolitan people. They're living 2 to 3 years ahead of everybody technologically because they're creating the infrastructure that everybody's adopting 2 to 3 years later. People don't understand how incredible it is that in 2009, I was on a public bus and somebody was streaming high definition baseball live. Okay, 2009. It seems like, oh yeah, of course, high streaming. Anyway, I digress. To the point is this completely changed my mentality. I decided that I wanted to be more of a citizen of the globe than just a citizen of my hometown. I decided that I wanted to understand what it was like to be able to navigate multiple cultures, multiple environments, and in some cases, environments of fairly high risk. Traveling by yourself to certain countries when you don't speak the native language, there's an inherent risk built into this. So the entrepreneurial spirit, the risk-taking spirit was being cultivated. My tolerance for it was being tempered like a sword. If you want to forge a sword, it has to go through some particular processes. Do you know what that is, Omar?
Please tell me.
You have to heat it up really hot. You have to make it so hot that it almost melts, and you take a hammer and you bang on it. Okay. But then you have to cool it. It has to cool and harden again. But then when you reheat it and you retemper it and you cool it again, it gets even harder and it gets more resilient and it becomes harder to break. The samurais knew this so well. That's why they folded. Japanese samurai swords were notorious because they would fold the steel over and over and over. They would reforge it over and over and over. Not too many times, because if you break it, you can't put it back together. But just enough to make it as hard and as sharp as you possibly can. And that's what those early years of my 20s were, exploring opportunity that at the time felt like a devastation or a trauma. My story has been shattered. My plan has been blown up to smithereens. And yet something magical and more magical than I could ever imagine came out from this. But I was still desiring to be in the corporate world. I chose to spend some of that time where the economy was reacclimating and readjusting. I did my master's degree in business at a school called Yonsei University, the first and the best. And it is part of the Korean Sky network of schools, their top 3 big schools. Here I am, some guy from Memphis. Multiple people around me are speaking multiple languages. I tell people I speak 3/4 of a language because I'm from the South in the United States. We blend words together. We can't even speak the whole language all that well. And here I am in this place where it's common for people to speak 3 to 5 languages and flow through them very, very easily. So it raised my expectation of what was possible for me. And so when I went through the MBA, I meet all these amazing people that, like, to this day, I can't, I'll say his first name, Leif. Leif was from Sweden. He spoke 7 languages. 7. He went to University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business, as high caliber, as high prestige as you can possibly be. And he's sitting right next to me in that seat. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Oh, we got Mario. He's from Mexico. He went to Harvard when he was 16 to study astrophysics. He decided, this whole discovering new things in the planetary system that nobody's ever seen, this is a little bit too esoteric for him. He wants to get down to business. And now he's sitting in this seat. And I'm still finding my way, a bit of an oddball. But this skill set and the experience of being in this group, we had 55 people in my cohort. Half of them were from Korea, natives. Other half of us, 25 of us, we were from 18 nations. very highly dense. I had happy birthday sung to me in 13 languages on my 25th birthday. Okay. So why am I saying all this? Well, because in order to understand why I approach business the way that I do, and in order to understand my perception of culture and economy and why I participate in the industry that I participate in, because I chose it on purpose, it's important to know where I came from, because I thought I was going to go work for Samsung. I thought I was going to go work for LG or Bosch or FedEx, which is where I'm from. That was my anticipated future. And then one day I met a man named Rob Miller, and Rob was one of the first CrossFitters ever. He was one of the original fire breathers. He's a family friend from Santa Cruz, California. Shout out Rob Miller. And he gave me a book called Starting Strength. I was into the fitness thing. I had done martial arts, but he gave me a book called Starting Strength, and it was by a man named Mark Ripito, and it's all about barbell training. He said, I can see you're getting into the CrossFit thing. That's cool, but read this book if you really want to understand. And if there is one thing I am, Omar, it is endlessly curious. And when somebody hands me a book and says, and somebody that I respect, he was in his 40s, he was shredded. I still aspire to the body that man had in his 40s, and even in my 20s. And I said, that's who I want to be like. So when that guy hands me that book, I go all in, and I fell in love with training. God, I fell in love with it. And so at the same time that I'm doing my MBA, I'm also getting into training, and I'm getting into CrossFit, and I'm looking at the business model of CrossFit, because it's like one of the only opportunities that someone in the fitness industry could have had to have their own affiliate of CrossFit. You telling me I can have my own gym, make $100,000+ of personal income a year, and this is what I get to teach people? I want a piece of that. I don't want to go sit my ass on my fucking butt for 15 hours at Samsung wondering if my boss hates his wife and that's why he never goes home. And if he doesn't want to go home, guess what? You got hueshik, which is after party dinner. You go out with your boss all night if he needs to go out all night. And it's like, and you're expected to be there before he gets there in the morning. It could be 7:30, could be 9:30. You make the call, but you better be there first. It was high pressure. And at the time, I realized I wanted nothing to do with that. I actually wanted my own personal sovereignty and freedom. And what better way to do that was something that I love to do. Okay. But I didn't know how I was going to get there. So after I graduated with my MBA, I moved back to Memphis. I started working in the tourism and hospitality industry. I worked for an entity called the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau. Sounds very official. You can call it Memphis Tourism. Our organization was involved and in charge of inviting people to come to the city and spend their money there. So I learned all about the industry. I'm a huge history nerd. I love music, and to be working in tourism as a history nerd and as a music lover, it's about as good as it gets. The best music. If you are an American, my city scored your life. We are the cultural music epicenter of your life, and you probably don't even know it. Go check out Stax, STAX. Put on the Stax greatest catalog and just whisk yourself away into the magic of this music, and you will feel something. If you are in need of feeling something out there, anybody listening to this, you maybe are still looking for ways to get in touch with your feelings. Music is the channel that you can plug yourself into to actually learn to feel something. Then you can start to make sense of what you're feeling later. But if you're still in the need to feel, go put on Otis Redding's I've Been Loving You Too Long. And remember that dude died when he was 26 years old. Remember that when he sang that song, he was 22 years old, and he's singing into that microphone, I've been loving you too long to stop now. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. That's what you need to do. So I go into tourism, and I essentially get to skip the line. I get to work right next to the CEO and president. I all of a sudden am now sitting in the room with all the consultants and all the people. I got to skip the line. But the truth is I felt entitled to it because I went to such a prestigious university and I was around all these international people, and you Memphis folk, you don't understand that. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm not even from there anymore. And part of my journey has been remembering that the grass is never greener on the other side. It's only as green as you make it on the side you're on. And I was not nurturing my connection to this industry. I was not nurturing that connection to the people that allowed me to skip the line. I took all the tickets and all the games and all the luncheons and all the music festivals and all the passes. I enjoyed the spoils, but I did not water the grass. I imagined that the entrepreneurial venture that I soon was about to set sail on, that's where the grass was greener. And so I remember having the conversation with my boss and told him, first of all, I pitched him. Let's just start there. Before I told him I was leaving, I pitched him on joining me to start what would have essentially been like the second or third CrossFit gym in the Memphis area. The other two, one of them became the Barbell Shrug guys, and they changed the fitness industry forever. Shout out to Barbell Shrugged. And he thought, I mean, he was impressed, but it didn't change the fact that he wanted nothing to do with it. But he was impressed that I pitched him. Okay. He was impressed that I pitched him. And I was confident because I knew that I'm a strategist. What I studied in MBA, and the reason that I feel very confident in my toolkit and my coaching, is that I studied strategy. And when you study strategy, it allows you to see the macro and the micro at the same time. It allows you to see the bits and components of things that they share in common. And so as a strategist, I knew positioning myself with CrossFit at the time where the industry was at was going to be a major win for anybody who could pull it off. Open multiple gyms, collect the market, and dominate. And that's exactly what happened. I just didn't get to be a part of it. What I did do, though, Omar, and this is where we'll continue into the lessons here, there was a carrot. Whenever you're going to make a big risk or take a big risk, it better have a big freaking carrot on the other side of it. Because if there's not, then there's no desire to like tolerate the risk. If the reward's worse than the risk, then why do it at all? Right. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you first start here. Is the risk and reward ratio positioned in your favor? There's a lot of reward to being an entrepreneur. You get to keep a higher percentage of the spoils when you have them. But the flip side of that coin is when there is downturns, it hits you harder. You're more responsible. So if you're responsible for a family, you already have children and a spouse or family that you take care of, whether that be a parent or otherwise, and someone who is an entrepreneur with no kids and has never taken on any risk tolerance because they're in their 20s. And yeah, sure, they might have spiked for their first million or whatever, but they haven't actually endured the thresholds of pain and tolerance that comes with being a parent. They haven't felt that pressure, that squeeze, because they only have themselves to care for. And they're telling you, you just need to drop everything and be an entrepreneur. I highly advise you choose to listen to someone else whose life more closely resembles the life that you desire to live. And to understand that, you need to understand your values. That's a whole nother conversation. But when it comes to tolerating the risk, if you are in that position and the carrot is big enough, it can be worth it. Okay. So for me, the carrot was, I thought I had met the woman I was going to marry. And she was back in Korea. And was
she Korean?
Ethnically, yes, but she was a German national. Yes, which means that she could be like the most cute. And then also she's having a standard conversation with someone in German and you're pretty sure they're yelling at each other or cussing each other out. They're not. They're just actually happy to talk to each other. It's a very interesting balance of culture there. There's a lot of history between Korea and Germany that I could ref on, but I won't because we're going to do this and keep in time integrity. So the carrot was that I was going to get married. And so I have the conversation with my boss. I pitch him. I tell him that I'm leaving and that I'm going to go get married to that woman that, you know, I was dating her and you remember? And he was, yeah, I remember. And okay, this makes sense. But I knew really what I was doing is I was escaping and I was also going to coach. So I was leaving, but I was also going to coach. That's when I made the decision. I had been coaching at night for free to some people. They had seen a lot of results. They had given me some good feedback. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm CrossFit certified. I'm ready to get into the scene and then figure out a way to own a gym. And so I fly to Korea. Within the first 10 days of being back, I walked into a CrossFit gym, met some guys, got invited to a gym, and was like, okay, I found my group. This is cool. And then on the 11th day, she broke up with me. I just sold all my stuff. I just left my job. I just told my parents that I probably wouldn't see him for 5 to 10 years. 11 days later, she broke up with me. And I'm like, well, this has got to be the worst thing that's ever happened. Yeah. Oh, that sucks. On day 12, I walked into that CrossFit gym again because they invited me and they hired me. So now actually, and you have to give some context to CrossFit, it was rare to get hired and get paid a full-time salary by a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
Rare, but I did it. That evening, one of my first friends in the whole country, I'm like, now I don't have a place to live. I'm trying to figure it out. One of my closest friends reached out to me and she asked me, hey, I heard you're back in the country. Do you happen to need a roommate? My roommate just did a midnight run. For those that don't know the international teaching scene, a midnight run is when a expat decides they don't want to teach little kids anymore. So they buy a plane ticket without telling anybody and they just leave.
I love it.
And they don't show up to work. They just leave.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So they did a midnight run and Bonnie needed a new roommate and I just got broken up with. Oh, by the way, the gym, 20-minute walk from where she lived. In Seoul, that's insane. Insane to be a 20-minute walk from anywhere of substance, much less the new job that you just got. I say all that to say this. I went out there for one reason. The carrot was the woman, the love. But what I really got was my career. I got to join one of the best gyms on the planet. I got to be mentored by quite literally some of the best coaches on the planet. We were affiliated with Reebok. Reebok doesn't sponsor many CrossFit gyms. Ours was one of them. And so I got to meet, man, some of the biggest names in the game coming to our gym to teach workshops and seminars. 3 months later, the 2 head coaches leave to go start gyms in Hong Kong. And out of a staff of 8, they picked me to be the head coach. And I'm like 3 months into my first coaching job, and now I'm the head coach for one of the largest CrossFit gyms in the world. And you know what, Omar? I still felt entitled to it. Of course I did. Of course I'm in this position as the head coach. I'm the one that went to Yonsei. Of course I'm going to be the one doing this, this, and this, because these people don't know what I know.
Ego.
Big time. Thought I'd left it to the side in martial arts. It turns out that your ego can hide in many different types of places. Yeah, I don't mind getting my ass kicked by other guys and other girls. I've tempered that. I don't mind losing in a physical combat. That's not why I'm there. But it turns out I needed to win in other areas that I wasn't seeing. I needed to imagine that I was better than other people. And not realizing that these coaches and mentors had actually invested a tremendous amount of money and time and energy into bringing me onto their staff, getting me a visa, which visas, for those that don't ever travel or try to move somewhere else, these are not easy to come by.
It is hard.
You have to have
Costa
somebody.
Rica.
Yeah. So if you ain't slinging enough money to buy your own, the company's got to sponsor you. And that's what they did. They sponsored my visa. But at the time, I'm young. I don't understand the impact. And I got offered another carrot about 8 months later. And that carrot was to move back to my hometown and be a CrossFit gym owner with a partner. I was offered a partnership in a gym. And seeing as that was my number one ideal and idea of the time, the best thing I could ascend to in that short amount of time would be a gym owner trying to climb the ranks, not realizing that there's a lot of skills still here to learn about how gyms work, about customer service, I didn't think of any of that. I thought I'm the fucking best. and I know how to do this.
Mm.
And so 8 months after this, I tell my coaches and my mentors and the owners, hey, I got offered this opportunity. I'm going to turn it back around. And they were not happy.
Mm.
It's only later that I realized exactly why, because I could not let this be another lesson. As far as their perspective was concerned, I had access to 359 of their 360-degree perspective. I had 359 degrees of access to their perspective. And I imagined that because I knew the 359, that I could assume that I knew the extra 1 degree of perspective, which is the individual I, or one. Well, it turns out when it comes to perspective, that 1 degree is just as important as 211 to 212 Fahrenheit when it comes to boiling. 211, you got extremely hot water. 212, you have boiling air coming out. There's a difference between 33 and 32. 33, you have very cold water. At 32 degrees, you have ice. In order for that elemental shift, that alchemistic shift to happen, the last degree is the most important. And I assumed that I understood that until I was sitting in that seat. And did sit in that seat for several years. And every time something would happen, I would like reflect back. Go, oh shit, I did that to that person. And I thought I knew what it meant. They were trying to do this the best they could. And I thought I could do it better because I had a 359-degree view. No, the difference is that 1 degree of perception is literally everything. And until you're in the seat, I advise you, please, I implore you, please do not assume that you know what that 1 degree is and what it's like until you have the courage to sit in that seat for yourself and have all of the decisions that are being made on behalf of a entity come back to you. Please assume that there's still something to learn, even if you think you could do it better, even if you know you could, because that 1 degree is everything. When it's your ass on the line, you will have a much different expectation for others and for yourself, and appreciation for what others have done for you. And it took me 5 years to really start to integrate the lessons that I learned at Sentinel, which is the name of the gym, Reebok CrossFit Sentinel 1. And it no longer exists, unfortunately. It's been broken up into several small gyms. So I have the experience as a CrossFit gym owner. Because I'm still living on the grass is always greener, I get offered a opportunity to start a PE program for a school. I say yes. And now I'm hustling, boy. I'm up at 5:30 for our 6 a.m. class. I'm teaching a 6. I'm teaching a 9. I'm doing my admin work. I'm jogging over to the other side of the city to teach school work for 4 hours from 10 to 2. Go back. I'm trying to get my workout in. I got a 5:30 class. I got a 6:30 class. No, why not just throw on another master's degree pursuit at the same time and study anatomy and physiology until 2 a.m. so you can do it all over again. And that was the next part, is that I was like, I thought that doing more was the way to get more. It's the logical assumption. I do this, I get this much. It must be if I do more, I get that much. And let's not forget that the Korean work culture, 15 hours a day, standard. Standard. So I prided myself on being able to work longer, harder than everyone else. And that was what was going to help me win. The competitive advantage. My competition wasn't working as hard as I do. So that's how I was going to win. So I tried the more route. And just like anybody finds out eventually, when you live with the story that only more will get you what you want, you get burned or you break. It's exactly what happened. I burned out. My body broke down. I tried to destroy my relationship with a young, kind, smart, unexpected blessing in my life, I tried to disintegrate it and blow it up and put it all on her. And thank God she's the strongest woman I've ever met, because she's now my wife. This is when actually everything changed, Omar, was when I understood love for the first time. Because with all due respect to the woman that I thought I was going to marry in Korea, it had nothing to do with her and had everything to do with me. I thought that I had to do something in order to receive love. It was conditional. I had conditional love for myself. If you do this, then you can be happy. If you make this amount of money, then you're worth something. Then you're worth receiving and giving of love. And it was when I realized that I could fall flat on my face tomorrow and lose everything that I had built, and she was going to be there anyway. And it completely fractured, thank God, and shattered like glass. I saw the crack happen in my third eye. It went crack, splinter. It all came down. And that's when I started understanding what it meant to live for more than myself, to actually offer unconditional love. What does that mean now? If I understand unconditional love for myself, what does that mean now? How can I give this to other people? What does that look like? And so my relationships got better. I exited my partnership at the CrossFit gym. I used my relationships to schools and nonprofits to start a new gym. I wanted to get away from this idea that everything had to be hard work, that more work was what people needed. It certainly wasn't what I needed. And I realized when I was teaching the kids, I'd spend 40 minutes of my 50-minute class just working my ass off, breaking my back to try to get these kids to do the work. But as soon as I packaged together 5 to 10 minutes of free play time, they'd run themselves into the dirt and get way more done in that 10 minutes that I could have possibly tried to get done with the work. It's because they knew how to do it already. It's called play. Ever heard of it? It's a lost art. The kids knew how to play, and they knew how to play hard. And it didn't take me teaching them how to do this or that, every technical biomechanical term. I'm not going to wow them with my experience. The kids just want to play, man. They didn't come to PE to learn about hydration. It's important. I don't need to have a 35-minute lesson on hydration. Let's get them moving. They'll be hot. They'll be thirsty. They'll drink water. Doesn't have to be that hard. You want to teach them how about hydration? You go have them play around. They're going to get thirsty. And that's when you tell them about water, you know? So I learned a lot about coaching, and I realized, holy shit, we have all these adults out there that have forgotten how to play, that are trying to lead these children. Oh God. 75% of Americans are overweight. 45% of them are clinically obese. 45, that's nearly half of the American adult population are clinically obese. And they're teaching our kids. And not to say that they were taught by someone else, those behaviors and those things. It's all learned knowledge. Okay. But if we can learn it, we can unlearn it. If you can unlearn it on the micro, then you can help contribute to the unlearning of the macro. If I fix myself first, then I'll be able to be a model for other people, hold that standard. I'll be able to hold the standard. I'll be able to model it. People don't do what you tell them. They do what they see. So if I want to convince people to be healthy, well, I better damn near be the healthiest version of myself that I can. Otherwise, I'm not modeling it. It's not in integrity. So if I want people to play more, I got to model in my own life. And that was the lesson that I learned from Recess, is that I was so busy working on my business, forgot to have fun. And how out of integrity is my business now is I'm actually taking away the one thing that I'm saying everybody else needs. It's not very congruent. I didn't and because I wanted to skip the line, because I didn't pay attention at all the things that made that gym successful for the first time. I could have learned so much if I stayed there 2 years, because I was trying to jump to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. I'm not learning the essential skills that each level of the game is there to offer you.
Beautiful.
And so I didn't learn them until much later. I'm inviting you guys to start learning this now, but Recess did not live during the pandemic because I hadn't yet positioned it to stand and be a good business. And closing that gym was really hard. Man, it was hard. Not to say that I didn't mind getting up underneath some of the debt or clearing out some of the clutter from my day and the stress of the bills and the people and the systems and all that. That was great. It was fine to brush it away. What really was hard was brushing away my identity as a successful person, because I failed. I failed what I desired to do, and I did it. It was very public, very public. And I moved my business online, did whatever I could to salvage income for myself. And that lasted for about, a year and a half. It was hard. I got to do some fun things. I went on a road trip. I've connected more deeply with my wife. But that confidence that my confidence was shaken. Every step along the way, it was like, that was one thing that I had locked up. It was my confidence that what I was doing was the right thing. But then you get this fracture in your story, and you're having to retroactively look back at all the decisions that you've been making and realize you didn't know what was right at this time. You actually neglected really great advice from wonderful people who desired to help you because I was so smart. And so the biggest lesson from Recess is it's a big difference between knowledge and experience. I highly overplayed my hand by valuing my knowledge. And I very strongly was out leveraged by people with way more experience. I was not listening to what they had to say because I overvalued my knowledge. They had wisdom and experience that I was not filtering into my brain as properly as I could. I have now. It took the pain. It took the heat. I got the cooling phase, which was the last year and a half of doing a whole lot of nothing. And then in August of last year, my wife, so exciting, babe, your birthday's in 2 weeks. I got a surprise for you. I can't hold it back. Tell me about it. I got you tickets to go run a Spartan race with your boy, Dave Robinson. Y'all are going to do the beast in West Virginia. And I was like, hold up. You mean the half marathon up the mountains of West Virginia with 35 obstacles? You mean that race, the beast? Yeah. Isn't that the one you were training for? Well, I was thinking about doing a 5K, but sure, let's do a half marathon. Let's go for it. It's my 35th birthday. I got 2 weeks. So I trained as hard as one could in 2 weeks. And she flew me to Richmond. I linked up with Dave in our mastermind group, close friend. And he had me sorted out. He had all my gear. He had all the nutrition plan. He had the race plan for me. I mean, this dude is prepared. We call him Ready Dave for a reason. Dave was ready. And we go and have this race. And Omar, it was an absolute ball. I had an unbelievable time. I took my time, nothing to do. I knew it was going to be a 4+ hour adventure anyway. Where am I in a hurry? Let's climb these mountains and take in these views. Let's stop at the water station and say hey to somebody and ask them how their day's doing. How's their race going? Do they need any support? That moment where you got to do the 1/4-mile swim in the lake with your life jacket on felt like a godsend, getting in full shoes and everything. Didn't matter. You get in that lake, it was heaven on earth. And so when we were camping after that race and I felt good, I remember Dave puts on a song. It's called "Oh Virginia" by a band called Holy Roller. They're like a local bar band here in Richmond, Holy Roller. And it's basically a chant there's a verse, but then there's a long stretch where they're just chanting and singing, oh, Virginia. And I'm like feeling this shift. Like, damn, I need to move. I've been trying to build this support that I already have access to right now. All I have to do is move. Oh, Virginia. And I was like, holy shit, me and my wife are going to move to Richmond. Holy shit. So it was like, we didn't know how we were going to do it, but we needed to do it. We knew we needed to move. And so I go back, I talk to my wife. 2 weeks later, she and I are visiting. And right when I got back, I didn't know what I was going to do. But my sister refers me to this job company called Carolina Core Wellness. And they were looking to hire some people, and she referred me to it. And I'm like, well, I'm already moving to Richmond. So, I don't know what they're going to offer me. Then before you know it, 2 weeks later, as we're heading to Virginia, I've now taken a job for the most amount of money that I've ever made. This is October of last year. It made my move to Richmond easy. I can work remote, and I get to build the executive coaching program for high-end executives at the same time. I'll be your director of business development, and I get to work on this coaching program at the same time. This is like the best thing ever. It came out of nowhere. I was going to be on the podcast, and I was going to do all this stuff. And 2022, the plan was year with Carolina Core Wellness, business development, and growing out this coaching program. 90 days after I got hired, January 11th or whatever it was, very similar to the carrot of soul. The carrot was the job that made the moving easy. 90 days later, boom. Sorry, man, we're going in a different direction. You're fired. And I'm like, well, isn't this a pickle?
90 days in.
90 days. And with all due respect to them, without warning. They retroactively said, well, this was your warning. It was not a warning because I explicitly asked you if it was a warning, and you said that it wasn't. So it wasn't a warning as far as I'm concerned. They fired me. Now, I have a choice to make, Omar. I was pissed, dude. I just built this whole life. I didn't make unreasonable expectations or decisions based on my income. I made very modest ones given the income that I was going to be making. Yet now I've gotten, 3 months of salary. That's all nice. But like now there's a timeline. Clock's ticking. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, shit. First of all, I need help. This whole solopreneur thing, this is not for me. I can't be doing all the stuff. Not at the level that I want to be doing it. Let's go find out some bad mo frappies to help you out that are executing at a high level. Well, who's always ready? Ready, Dave Robinson. Dave, you want to coach together? Yeah, I want to coach with you, man. What do you think about this men's health, this executive idea? Because listen, I was already starting to build it with these guys. I know that they want it. I know that they'll pay 20 grand for it. They said themselves, they said, hell, if they knew that it worked, they pay 100 grand for it. And I'm like, well, there's a fucking market for this. Let's make something that is delivering that much value. He was like, let's do it. And I was like, good, man, because I got like 90 days until I'm out of cash. So we need to fucking get going. Okay.
This is the entrepreneur fucking
life.
Epic saga.
Epic.
Epic. This is such a brilliant entrepreneur story.
So I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do now? Okay, I got 90 days. But I want to tell you, because I'm seeing where the story needs to go. Elon Musk said, being an entrepreneur is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. Because you are literally always staring into the unknown, the darkest, most uncharted territory. And you got to chew glass sometimes. You're crunching on it, but you got to love it. And man, when that pressure went up and that mastermind group comes in right on time and the energy's right, you'd be amazed at the shit that you can do. Because in the last 90 days, we have built a world-class health men's mastery program. And I use world-class very loosely. We say that it's a way to step into the identity. But I will say that in 15 years of coaching, this is the most value I've ever delivered to people. I realize that these guys, they don't want more. They want less. They want less and they want results. Cool, man. Here are the 10 things you need to do to get healthy while you work. Don't tell me you don't have enough time. I'm teaching you how to get healthy while you work. What do you mean you don't have time? What you don't have is creativity. That's what you're missing. You're missing accountability too, because you say you don't have time. And I've been watching you sit on your ass for 3 straight hours taking calls. Stand up and march in place. Get a slack block and stand on it. Get a kettlebell in your room and take calls and just walk around. You like playing soccer? Where's the soccer ball at your feet all day long? Stop telling me what you like to do and actually do it. And where I'm going to hold you accountable to doing it, because I need you to do the same thing for me. I need you to help me master these areas of my life, but I'm going to help you deliver it. This is what mastery looks like. You don't believe me? I'm going to take off my shirt. I'm a 35-year-old man, and I've been in the shit for a decade or more, working my ass off, and I still make time for myself because it's actually not as hard as you think it is. Once you get a little creativity, once you get a little creative, it gets easy and it gets fun. And so we started Chop Club for men. What does it mean to chop? Well, if you know the phrase, keep chopping, you're chopping at your goals. Well, if you're going to cut down a tree, Abraham Lincoln, you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. You give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 of them sharpening the axe. Everybody wants to get chopping, but nobody wants to sharpen the axe. And those things that you do or don't do at work, that is the sharpening of the axe. You want to go out and play your men's league soccer, you better be sharpening the blade while you're at work. Otherwise, that hammy's going to pop. That ankle's going to get turned. That lower back is going to get flared up because you ain't sharpening the axe, man. You're actually putting yourself at risk. And I'm going to tell you to your face that that's what's going on, because that's what's real. As a coach, I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to give you results. I want you to feel better. That's my intention. You know, we could talk about the feminine and the masculine. I'll give it really simple. When I think about coaching people, especially somebody that's going through trauma, I think about trauma and stories, tough stories, like babies. When a baby's born, it needs its mother. It needs nurture and care. It needs to be held. Okay. It's very essential. The go out and mow the lawn energy from dad at infant doesn't help anything. The baby can't do this. It can't fend for itself. But when I look on the TV and I see a 6-year-old British kid breastfeeding while reading Harry Potter, that kid is too old for titty. That kid's way too old for titty. That kid should not have a bare breast in its mouth suckling milk whenever he wants to, if he can ask for it and tell you that it tastes like mangoes. Okay? So what's my point? There is a time and place where the nurture and care becomes a detriment to the person that you're working with. And you have to hold boundaries, which is like boundaries are the world. Father represents the world. You know, mother represents me because you're literally physically connected to your mother. So mother is an archetype for who you are, how you see yourself. Father is the first energy. If you're fortunate enough to have a father, the first outside source, because you and your mother are the same thing as far as you're concerned. The father is the world. So if you're having trouble with the world, take a look at your relationship to your father. If you're having a hard time with your own self-identity, take a look at what you've learned from your mother. Okay, it's a really simple place to start. So when a lot of these guys that we're working with, these men that want to chop, they need dad energy at first, because that's what they're used to. You give them the dad energy, you tell them to go mow the lawn. Hey, you missed a spot, you know? But then what happens is that, like, you keep showing them that they keep missing this one spot over and over and over again. And then we have to start dealing with a story that needs some nurture and some care. But if you tell me the same story for the next 2 years as the reason that you're not getting on, it's time to pop the titty out your mouth and let's keep it moving. You're too old for titty. This story. And here's the thing, Omar, a lot of my stories are too old for titty. Okay. A lot of my own stories are too old for titty. I recently uncovered that I actually had trauma from not being picked from a high school baseball team. I realized that I have a thing about not wanting people to pick me for their team. And it just came up recently. And I do the work. I'm like, oh, wow. Like in my sales, the energy I'm bringing is please pick me for your team. No, motherfucker, this year I pick my team. I pick who I want to work with. And thank God for Omar Pinto, because that's exactly the energy he brought to that call. And that's exactly what I needed right then and there, was to remind myself that I get to pick my team. I'm picking my team this year, and we're going to be the best. We're going to kick so much ass. We are kicking ass already. We hadn't even launched the program. Just picked up a check. It's the biggest check I've ever picked up for a single coaching sale. I'll tell you that much. Felt fucking good putting it in my bank account. It took me a long time to close the first one. That's what I was frustrated with when I met Omar. I was like, dude, I've been working this guy, for a month. I was so upset. That's the emotional roller coaster, because I'm experiencing some scarcity. I see the timeline running down. I'm getting a little impatient, and I'm projecting that onto my client. And I'm like bringing that energy. And finally, I just said, you know what? If he backs out, hypothetically, if the energy that I'm going to carry around, the please pick me, then I'm giving away my power. Like, fine, dude, you don't want to pick me. I'll see you in a couple of years when you're even more broken. And guess what? By then, it's going to cost you 10x, because we'll have the legacy program going by that time. And the legacy program is for the guys that have had a couple of exits. They're realizing that their life is mostly a timeline with a bunch of checklist items ticked off of it because they did what they were supposed to do. And here they are, and they don't know what it all means. And so we're going to teach them how to write their story. We're going to teach them how to add life to their years. We're going to teach them how to write their story and teach them how to be a legend, to become the legend that they want. But right now, we got the masters. The mastery guys are building their legacy. They got a company, and it's growing and it's scaling, and they're enjoying it. But because they're putting so much time and attention on their business, they're feeling a little tight with their family time. Their health is starting to trend in another direction, and they're wondering, man, is this it? Do I really have to pack it in now that I'm in my late 30s and early 40s? Is it all downhill from here for me? Because they can't see a way out. They have lost the ability to be creative in that side of their life. So they bring on Brooks, the strategist, and Dave, the story worker is Dave. The storyteller is me. That's probably people can tell. Okay.
Brilliantly too.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to tell one more story on this, because it's related. It's related, which was, I wanted to make this sale before I went down to Austin, Texas. I went down to Austin for a coaching summit. I was going to be there the whole month, and my intention was to have the sale done before I got down there. It started to look like it wasn't going to happen, and I had to make a choice. I'm either going to be stressed out about this like the whole time I'm in Austin, or I can just acknowledge to myself that, one, he's not ready. Two, you're not ready. And that, like, y'all are all going to be ready in April. So just collect that check then. It's coming. Like, he's going to work with you. And so I decided to put it down, and I was like, cool. All I get to do this weekend at the coaching summit is learn and have a good time. I applied to host a workshop. I got to host it. It was great. But then the owner, or the leader of the coaching summit, Mike Bledsoe, shout out Mike. He goes, dude, do you want to tell your story? The King Says Yes, in front of the whole crowd. Now, my story, The King Says Yes, was a storytelling. It's a story that I've told many times about Sam, who got me to move to Korea. It was my first backpacking trip. We went to Jamaica for 8 days, and the story follows me and Sam along this very comical, very theatrical experience. But I realized that it didn't have a lesson. And so one day, a guy named Kyle Gray, who's a marketing and storytelling genius, he said, if you're going to tell a good story, make sure it has a good lesson. And I realized the lesson is learning how to say yes to who you really are. And all the things that happen when you ascend, we were working on our king shit that weekend. As you ascend into your own sovereign royalty, there's repeatable and things that you can expect to come up. And that's what the story is about. So I've told it a couple of times in the group. I tell it as a thank you for people that host me when we travel. I've done it for 2 people. Yeah, the whole thing. I do acting. I smoke weed the whole time. Why? Because the story's 1 joint long. Why do I smoke cannabis? Because it's a story about me going to Jamaica. Okay, I can't tell the story properly without having the requisite props. Any storyteller needs props. I have a chair and a joint. That's it. That's all that I need, and it's in a stage. So when Mike asked me to do it, I was like, this is going to be so fun. It was born in this community. It belongs to this community. It's my story, but it's going to be a blast. And so on Saturday night, he had me tell the story. And it was, besides the opening segment where everybody was there, it's the only other thing that everybody went to. Other than that we were spread out, going here, there, lunchtime, this. It was the only thing that everybody went to. And I had this goal written down in my journal. I want to get my story professionally recorded and videoed, because I actually properly believe that this story can make an impact on the world right now, not 10 years from now, right now. People need to learn to say yes to their gifts right now, because it's time. Our future depends on it. So if you are out there, I beg you, please learn to say yes to who you are and go for it, because it is the time. We can't wait 10 years. It needs to be right now. And that was the message that I had for them, except I walk out on the stage and I realize, holy crap, the whole professional camera setup is still here. And right when I had that realization, as I'm standing in front of about 100 people, I hear the guy behind, hey, listen, just lift your arms up. I'm going to be miking you up. I'll be in and out. And I realized, holy shit, it's happening. And I told everybody in the group, because we like journals and we like goals. Y'all, I wrote this down in my journal and it's happening, and I didn't even try. I wasn't trying to get this. It's just happening, but I want to acknowledge it. It sets the tone. So I do my opening monologue. I tell about how I met Sam, and then we have the moment where it's a year in the future, and we're deciding whether or not I'm going to get to go to Jamaica, you know. And the first thing comes at, which you got to learn to say yes in uncertainty. That's the first lesson. I won't tell the whole story, but there was uncertainty. I had to learn to say yes. And I say, and just like that, the heathens were on their way. The lights go out. They see the spark from my lighter. I smoke the thing. The music hits. Everybody loses their fucking mind. Okay. And I got to go so in and have a wonderful, life-changing experience for myself and other people. And all of that came from learning from all of the reps, all the coaching reps, all the presentation reps at business school, all the times that I've told this story as a funny, like, haha bar story, because there's funny things about it. Now I get to tell my story with a purpose and with an intention and with a lesson to share. And so this is the evolution of me. I'm now hitting to the point where I'm ready to tell my story. And I'm very thankful that you, Omar, have found a lot of value and entertainment in my entrepreneur's journey. But my journey is the same hero journey archetype that anyone that chooses to go onto this adventure can expect to see. And you may go through it many times. I'm having my apotheosis moment, which is like, I went down to the caverns, man. I was in the desert in a dungeon for like a year and a half trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. I get another carrot. I get some more confidence. The life shifts around me, but I keep the confidence and I keep moving forward. And now I'm having the best year ever. And I invite anyone that is interested in having every year be their best year ever, despite uncertainty and despite challenges, to reach out, find a coach, find somewhere that has been where you've been, that models the values that you want to see in the world. And if something that I said resonated with you, let me be your coach. You know, not everybody's going to resonate the same way with everybody. I've had multiple coaches tell me the same shit, and then finally one other person said, I'm like, there it is. You know, you hear the same thing from a lot of people, but for whatever reason, their vibration, you receive it, and it's like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. So that's my story today, Omar.
This is one of the most incredible recorded stories. I'm glad it's on video and going to be on podcast as well. It was like, I feel like there should be like a standing ovation. You know, halfway in it, I go, this motherfucker knows how to tell a story. Okay, like legit. I thought I was judging myself while I was listening to you going, God, Brooks can tell. I thought I could tell good stories. Brooks is the man. So, I mean, listen, there's so many parallels. And I think it's the entrepreneurial journey. You talk about Elon Musk talking about eating glass and staring into the abyss. I've always told the same entrepreneurial story with the shit sandwiches. You know what I mean? But it's really the same thing. You know, you're just going to keep, you know, here's a bowl of shit. Eat that bowl of shit. Okay, what do you get after you get that? After you're done eating that bowl of shit, here's another bowl of shit, right? So really what we're talking about is staring into that abyss, to that uncertainty of like, how long is it going to take me to eat this shit before I can get to that place where I've made it, where I feel like I have arrived. And it's so difficult because that's all part of it. You know, when you talk about losing your confidence, it's more about, was it ever really confidence? Like, that's the real question. That's what resonated with me when I heard that. I go, did you ever really have confidence? Or did you have an inflated ego because you had been able to skip the line and make the moves and feel as though, you know, that sense of entitlement, that sense of I'm working the system, it's all in there. It's all in there. I think I'm getting ahead. I think I'm beating the system. And in reality, and it's so funny because I just finished, you know, I was coaching one of my clients recently, which is like, you're being called to humility, bro. I don't know if you can, I want you to try and just sit with that for a moment. This might be difficult for you to just kind of embrace, but you are being called to humility. Right now, humility is not humiliation. People have a misconception of what humility is. Humility is the ability to be teachable. And when we lose that ability to be teachable, then this confidence we think we have gets shattered into a million pieces. And then who you really are, that guy emerges. Because you either say, fuck it, I quit. This is too hard. I'm not doing this. I don't know what they were talking about. I'm done eating shit sandwiches. Or you go and you say you have that dark night of the soul where you sit with yourself and you go, okay, thank you, universe. Thank you. All right, I understand. I try to skip the line. I understand I took this for granted. I understand I was just too young. But I'm ready now. I'm ready to embrace whatever the lessons that's being presented to me, right? So that I can teach it, because that's really what it is. It's about taking all of that incredible suffering and pain and uncertainty and walking into the abyss, right? And you're going to have to come out of the abyss before you can pull somebody else out, you know? And so like, I got so much out of your story. It's funny. I don't know if you know this, but I interviewed Dave Robinson.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
He said
we had a blast.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had no idea. This is what's beautiful about Omar. Omar doesn't give a shit. Omar doesn't do research. Omar just shows the fuck up. Okay. That's another rule too. Just show up. Okay. All of a sudden I'm listening and go, of the, I don't know how many guys were on that mastermind call. How many guys were on that mastermind call?
Probably like eight or nine.
8 or 9 guys. Of the 2 guys I singled out that I reached out to, okay, had no idea that they were working together. Didn't have any idea they were working together. I'm sitting here going, what are the odds? Oh no, Omar, it's not odds and it's not coincidence. You were drawn for a reason. You were called to them for a reason. And as I'm watching this, I'm having this beautiful psychedelic experience, right? Listening to Brooks tell a story and knowing, no wonder, of course, those guys are hooked up.
Yep.
Of course. Yeah. It's this perfect marriage. It's a yin and the yang. It's a beautiful, he works the story, I tell the story, right? And thank you. Today it was an honor for me to have you on my podcast, not even knowing how fruitful. I got so much out of this, Brooks, you can't even imagine. I came in here going, maybe I can help Brooks. And that's a kind of a cool thing about me too, because I'll see somebody who's struggling, and my inclination is to reach out. That's why I reached out. I felt you struggling, right? So let me reach out to Brooks, and it just drops value bombs all over this fucking episode going, this guy doesn't need my help. I need his help.
Got a good rate for you too. Got a men's mastery coming out.
I'm thinking I gotta.
May is mindset, bro. We are going to absolutely blow people away. The first month by itself is going to be worth the price of admission. People have no idea. If you're out there, like, first of all, Dave we call him the story worker because he is an Enlifted level 3 coach. Enlifted is a practical mindset method, and it's a method. There are steps that you can follow. Dave is high level, and he can see you before you even realize that you've told him much information because it's all hidden in the language. It's all hidden in the language, and he can hear it, and he can help you pull that out and tease it apart. But once you've done that, once you have assessed your language and assessed your mindset and where it's at, then the next step is learning how to tell your story. Okay, great. I understand how I've been writing my story is not serving me, but I don't know what else to do. What is there to do? Great. Let's create a new story. And if I was going to read a book about someone's life and they just gave me a timeline of significant events, this would be the most boring fucking book I could possibly read. There's no tension. There's no drama. Yeah. Legends don't come from, everything went well. And that's the story. Oh, that's the story of this legend. Everything went well.
Yes.
It's so uncompelling. There's nothing compelling about that. But if I read Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, which is the only book that Steve Jobs had on his iPad when he died, was this book, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Allow yourself, if you have any spiritual programming and religious programming, just suspend it. Imagine that this guy is just telling the story to the best of his ability of his own personal life. You keep and you judge and believe whatever you want to believe. This dude wrote his story. You want to have something to say about that man's autobiography? Write your own damn book. And you better make sure it has some drama in it. Otherwise, nobody's going to read it. So if you want to figure out how to write your story, fucking reach out to me.
So the two things I want to close on.
Yeah.
First of all, the importance of recognizing your value. So at some point, this idea of going into every situation, hoping that they pick me, pick me for your team, pick me for your team. I never got picked first for any team. I was always dead last. And typically because I was the only one left. Okay. All right. You talk about like, I didn't get picked once. I didn't get picked ever. Okay. They said, oh, fuck. All right. Come on, dude. We'll figure out a place for you. So I spent my whole life trying to be picked for someone. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I can resonate again. But at some point, when you recognize after eating the broken glass and eating the shit sandwiches and recognizing that your confidence is nothing more than ego and a false sense of pride, just because you think you know some shit. When you really, really, really gone through the trenches and your knowledge now matches your experience, that's when you can start to really, really, really look at yourself in the mirror and go, I am really, really good at what I do. I have a very special set of gifts and talents, and I don't need you to pick me for your team. However, I may not pick you. You may not be the right fit for me. And when you get to that place, it gets a lot easier to say no.
Our website has one button on it. It says apply now. Why apply now? Because you may not make it.
Perfect.
Stanford doesn't let everybody in. Just because you applied doesn't mean you got in. Just because you have the money to go to Stanford doesn't mean that you can get in.
See, I just probably learned something new. I might just apply now.
Yeah.
I might have to just change my buttons. Yeah. All right. So, and last thing, Brooks, please, value. How can my listeners reach out to you? Tell us a little bit more about this May event.
Sure. April, well, we may miss it if the episode comes out. April 21st, Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern. We're hosting the 10 hacks to help you get healthy while you work that take 5 minutes or less. If you want, we will get Omar the recording. He can share it with the listeners after this comes out. It will be our gift to the listeners that they can have this workshop. And in May, we're starting Chop Club. You can come on to Chop Club. It's a mastery program. We pick one topic a month and do a deep dive. The first week of every month, you get an assessment with your coach. The second week of every month, there is a master class, a 90-minute master class on that topic, and we're going to go in. You can't make the call? Great. You get the recording. You got to be in the club to get the information. Week number 3, reassess where you are on that. And then week number 4, this is the only mandatory thing. We only keep one thing mandatory, and that's that you make this accountability call. Why? Because when I asked 50 men what their number one need was, the number one answer, accountability. Accountability. Great. You want accountability? You have to be here at this time for other people, not just for you. We need you there. Otherwise, there is no accountability. You are your own accountability system. That's what we're here to show you. Okay. But you got to be accountable to other people first. So you have to make this call. All right. And then we get to do it all over again. We get to go deep on another subject the next month. And month by month, you are going to master your health. Yeah, we'll have workout programming that's optional that you can do the whole time. And you're going to have a whole resources full. First, okay. So we got high-end, high-touch accountability. Okay. We're going to be in these dudes' phones, in their face. Are you doing your shit? I can see that you're not because I'm looking at your dashboard. Okay. Second thing is we're going to be offering cutting edge education. Like Dave and I, we've been in this industry a long time. We don't just know what's coming. Like we know the people that are making what's coming. Okay. So we know what the cutting edge is, and we're now being validated from, things that we started 10 years ago now. Okay. 5-10 years ago now, this is what's going to happen. So if you want to be at the edge of that information, you can come join us. And the thing that I love the most is that we made a toolkit. Our toolkit is so legit. And since our promise is that we can help you get healthy while you work, we built it into G Suite. So you can literally have it there at your desk. And it's easy. You can use it right there. You can keep score, all the links, all the things you need, all the discounts you need, all the tools that you need to be successful, seamlessly delivered where you're already hanging out during your workday anyway. And if you can't use this program to get healthy and to get in shape, that is it's on you, man. We giving you all the tools, and every month we show up for you. Week by week, we show up for you. I'm writing those emails for you. I'm writing those articles for you. I'm doing these podcasts to educate you. All I want to do is help you fix your problem because I know how. And I know that I can save you $100,000 off your medical bill in 1 year. What's spending $10,000 when you're going to save $100K? Oh, because you don't see it? Well, why do you make investments anyway? You're not going to see a lot of your investments for another 10 years anyway. You don't seem to have a problem with it in your finances. Your body is your business. I'm going to say that again. Your body is your business. Let's try it again. Your body is your business. Okay. Your body is your business. You have all these accountability measures and metrics set up because you know it's important for your business. Your body's the same thing. Guess what? We got them all here for you. You hit these KPIs, these key performance indicators, you're going to get the outcome you want. You already do this with your business. It's not different. We're just going to shift the lens, and you can rely on us being masters of our health because we exhibit it. I'm just going to tell you, Omar, if this ain't what health mastery looks like, I don't fucking want to know what it looks like. I was in the gym the other day. My wife was looking at me going, babe, you are so hot. I'm 9 years older than she is. Okay. You know how great it is to have a 26-year-old wife tell you at 35 that you look hot. She can't wait. You're all sweaty working out. And she can't wait to jump your bones. That can be your reality too, even with kids. In fact, it would be sexier. It would be sexier. The sex amplification would come from having kids. You telling me you're that much, you're balling at work, you're putting into relationships, and you look so good that your wife can't keep your hands off you? That is your future, man. You don't have to pack it in. You don't have to say it's all downhill from here. That is bullshit. I know for a fact you can increase your cardio aerobic capacity into your 60s. Don't tell me you are packing it in. That ain't true. I know that it's not true. It's freaking science. I got data to support that shit. Okay? All you need is that person that you will grant your trust to, because trust is not earned. It is granted or withdrawn. Some people are more liberal to grant their trust. Some people are a little more conservative to grant their trust, but it's all granted or withdrawn. So I can promise you, if you grant me your trust, you'll get the result. That's it. That's the only commitment. Will you allow yourself to trust that there's somebody that knows more than you and has more experience in this, and they have something to value? Even though, like I said, beginning of the year, I was worried about being cash broke in 90 days. Yeah, fine. Sell a mastery program that helps him fix my finances, and I'll buy your program. But until then, this is what you got. You got an incredible men's health mastery program that we made it for the boys, man. We made this one for the boys. And these guys, they're all high performers. They all love their family. They all want to be better. And they thought they didn't have enough time. Turns out they just didn't have the right coach and the right creativity. And that's what we give them. chopclubformen.com. Brooks, Brooks at Chop Club for Men, CHOPCLUB for men.com. And honestly, we're not really doing much on Instagram. That's not where our people are hanging out. I'm in their email box, and I'm in their ears on their way to work. That's what we do. And so if you want to join, we're enrolling all year round. We only enroll for the first couple of days in the month, because benefits include you get a kit every month. Surprise, we didn't tell you about that feature. You get a kit with new shit every month, new gear that Dave and I pick out specifically to help you master that thing every month. You get it to your door, man. And you gotta do nothing. So
Chop Club for Men.
Chop Club for Men.com. And if you're a woman and you want to get to know us, don't worry. We don't only just coach men. You can get some story work done with Dave and I. Learn to tell your story. My wife is a fantastic mover. If you need help, we can support you too. Connect at Chop Club for Men if you have any questions.
Brilliant.
Thank you,
Brooks. Sending you so much love, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
And thank you, because it is because you reached out to me and because you taught me, reminded me to remember my value, that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Thank you.
I love it. We can't do this alone. We can't.
Amen.
All right. Ciao. Make sure to follow Brooks. Get to that website. Join.